Sound waves reaching the microphone are changed into impulses of electric current.
No need to worry about your pre-recorded music tapes being accidentally erased. It can't happen.
Testing. Can you hear me now? There we go. Maybe my mic was muted. That might have been me. Sorry. That means nobody heard me.
That's just fine. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Reverie Open Qualifier. I think this is number 4 for the Reverie Rift Cup number 1. There's a lot of numbers mixed in there, but it's the 4th qualifier for our first Rift Cup.
Indeed, and first off, we are having Supernova making a return, and we have a new team, Team Divine, on the red side, I don't really recognize any of these players just yet.
Ooh, and a Rakan band straight out the gate. That's exciting. Supernova is definitely a returning team here, and as you say, Divine is one who we have not seen any of yet, and as such, Divine has their work cut out for them. Supernova are not an easy team to take down.
Maybe not. Team Divine took down BDG coming into this semifinal, so they have a pretty good shot, I think.
Yeah, BDG standing, of course, for Bentovar Gaming, another team that often makes the rounds here at Reverie. So impressive for them to have taken that victory. And Kindred being the last band is very, very strange. That does leave Lulu open, and Lulu is still first pick priority in almost any matchup. So going to be grabbed by Supernova. We'll see what the answering picks are.
Absolutely. And a Rakan band doesn't surprise me too much. I've managed to play a couple games against him, and he can be very disruptive.
Yes, that's for dang sure. Very, very powerful in certain compositions that are focused around team fighting and such, since he has the quickening being such a powerful tool for that sort of fight, a very messy, skirmishy, team fighty kind of game.
And so we could see well, I was just about to say it, a support pick in return to match the support. And then,
yeah, definitely makes sense.
And then either a jungler or a marksman to round out the first picks here.
In terms of... Oh, go ahead.
That just makes the most sense, and it's probably what we will see. I don't think we'll see a Teemo, though.
Likely not, but the Lucian is something of a power pick nowadays. This is sort of coming into his own as a pick ever since that buff to his animation timing. The Teemo does get locked in. This may be a placeholder pick. Maybe somebody on the side. Maybe somebody doesn't have a specific champion. That looks like it. That's what it is. Yeah, we're going to be going back to the lobby.
Supernova versus...
Sometimes that does happen. Not all players own all champions. So if they want to pick something early on in the draft, but that particular player in their lineup doesn't own that champion, then they will pick a placeholder so that they can then go back, restart the draft, and pick the correct champion the next time around. So Teemo likely stands for something. I mean, it could still be a Teemo and we just crash out of the draft for a different reason. I'm not sure. I actually haven't gotten confirmation on that.
It looks like it was a placeholder for Rengar.
All right, cool. So it was a Rengar early pick and Lucian. So two actually pretty powerful picks early on in the draft that are both going to potentially be denying picks from Supernova as well.
Indeed. Rengar is one of those characters who we've seen go off super hard several times. They get even a slight lead and they just start melting people.
And it will be the same picks and same bands going into the draft once we're back in it. So give us just a minute or two here, folks, to get everybody together, and we'll be right back with you.
Should not be too long. I'll have to see if they can TikTok along. And we're just re-inviting players back in, and then we should be good to go. And we're back. And it's going to be, this, of course, these same picks, the same bands, and nothing will change. And then once we get back up to our starting point, we're ready to go.
So it was Lulu first pick for Supernova, just to refresh people's memories.
Yes.
And then a Teemo that was actually Rengar in disguise alongside a Lucian pick. So we hadn't really gotten too terribly deep into the draft. Supernova, I imagine, will be answering with a jungle pick of their own. Jungle actually has been a little bit pinched in this draft. Supernova has banned out 3 junglers themselves, and then even Kindred has been taken off the table. An unexpected ban, but still a jungle-focused ban nonetheless. So we'll see what Supernova choose. Actually, they're going to go with a top laner and an AD carry. Okay. AD carry is pretty safe to pick into a Lucian. I don't know about the Twitch v Lucian matchup. I feel like Lucian would win that in lane, but just picking the AD carry doesn't give away a lot about your draft. And then Renekton is a very solid blind pick for top lane. So
curious that they didn't pick a jungler. It's just super safe to do so. They didn't need to pick something, especially something like Renekton, so early in the draft here.
True. I mean, well, it does sort of make the most sense to pick a jungler because then you give away the least about your composition. But Renekton still doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses in top lane. There aren't very many champions that do super well into him in lane. There are some that do okay and that he doesn't really counter, but there's no one that really hard counters a Renekton lane.
That's true. I just feel it's odd to hold your jungle pick.
What does hard counter a Renekton isn't anything to do with the laning phase. It's more to do with things that can outscale him later on. So something like a Rumble can do pretty well into a Renekton because that Rumble will then have much more team fighting power once the game drags on a bit. But Karma Shen, that is a whole load of shields to keep the Lucian and Rengar alive.
And a Shen can, once he gets out of the early game, can survive the lane.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, Shen does exactly what I was talking about with Rumble. He'll outscale his Renekton. He'll be more useful in the late game and be able to survive the lane. I'm actually really curious to see where they go with the jungle here. Like Rek'Sai is coming to mind. It's pretty much the only like strong jungler left at the moment.
Scroll through the list here. There's Lee Sin, Rek'Sai, Elise.
That's true. Yeah, you can definitely see an Elise. And Elise does balance out the damage of their composition a bit going with a Renekton top, particularly if they go with this Yasuo mid.
And they're going to opt for the Victor.
Cool.
So, standard mid-range mage, and that does give Shangdi the option of a mid lane counter pick if he chooses to, and he's hovering on the Syndra.
One of the cool things about Supernova's composition here is they've sort of picked a bunch of paragons of their archetype. You know, Renekton is the ultimate laning top laner. Victor is the ultimate mid-range mage. Like, these are just kits that are focused and designed to do one thing, nothing too fancy or gimmicky about them. And it's a very classic composition that Supernova have put together. Meanwhile, on the other side, though, if this Aurelian Soul gets locked in, it does make the opposing composition a little more janky, a little more interesting. Oh no! Yes, go for the Diana. Do it.
Do something different, and Anivius would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really like to talk too much about hovers, though. We'll wait and see what actually gets locked in the end. The RE is probably the most solid pick at the moment in terms of the meta, as well as just into a Victor lane. Assassin's usually doing quite well into mid-range mages.
Absolutely. And it looks like we have our roster. It looks like Ready is where they want to be. We'll be entering our 3-minute delay pretty quickly here. I actually kind of favor Team Divine's composition a little bit more, but that's because I have a bit of a bias for certain characters. I like Shen a lot.
Shen is certainly powerful.
I think he
Divine
is less of a handicap in the late game. Where
that's definitely true.
Renekton just turned into a stun bot.
Yeah, Renekton just becomes sort of a beefcake that can stun somebody every once in a while. And it's going to be, as far as the top lane matchup goes, for Pyking Lord, it's going to be about how well you can control that lane and snowball, and then maybe roam and make use of his advantage, because he has, of course, gone for teleport, being a top laner. But I would say that the compositions are actually relatively well matched. Divine has a bit more potential to get picks with an Ahri in the mid lane, as well as Rengar. But meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, their team fight's a little bit weaker. So Supernova can pick some good team fights. They've got Lulu, they've got Victor, they've got Twitch. They've got this really good core for team fighting around. We will have to wait to the spectator delay to find out exactly how it plays out, though.
Absolutely. And on that note, we are going to be entering a small, tiny commercial break. And as soon as we're in game, we'll be right back. So do not go anywhere, folks.
Lips, it tasted like those cigarettes. Staring at the moon, we'd go to bed. In my arms, you're safe and sound, without a threat. And I can't wait to see what happens next. How far can we get if we sail a little bit high, a little bit low? How far can we get if we sail a little bit high, a little bit low? We're still a little bit young, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit dumb, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit young, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit dumb, but I'm all in. Don't know any roads that lead us back home, and I don't know any roads that lead us back home. Our lips, it tasted like those cigarettes. Staring at the moon, we'd go to bed. In my arms, you're safe and sound, without a threat, and I can't wait to see what happens next. How far can we get if we sail a little bit high, a little bit low? How far can we get if we sail a little bit high, a little bit low? We're still a little bit young, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit dumb, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit young, but I'm all in. We're still a little bit dumb, but I'm all in.
And here we are onto the rift. We'll just be ready in just a moment with all the players warp in.
And I'm still actually looking at a loading screen here. My client not cooperating with me as per the usual, but I should be in very shortly. You give him the old solo cast for a little bit of effect. I'll be there in a moment.
Absolutely. Right now, both teams have just got onto the rift, are all buying their items, and I imagine we'll be seeing the very usual line of scrimmage set up from both sides.
And I have visual. I'm with you on the rift. Cool. Yeah, I don't imagine we see anything even approaching a level 1 fight. Not to say that there aren't good level 1 champions on either side. I mean, we've got some stuff to work with. We could see like a taunt start or a charm start from the Ari or the Shen. But we are in a best of 1 here. We are only in the semis. We don't really expect to see too much level 1 action because it could go so very wrong. And you want to make it all the way to those finals. You don't want to throw the game away because of a attempted aggressive move in the early levels.
Make one mistake and all of a sudden you give enemy team 5 kills and you have nothing. That would be bad. Speaking
Supernova
of aggression,
walking
though,
over a ward. But
just warning.
they're too grouped together for anything to really come of it. But that does mean that Divine knows now that there's vision on their Raptor camp. We'll see if anything is actually done with that information. It's certainly not bad to have it.
And I don't have any sound for some reason, I just realized.
That's unfortunate and very specific.
Give me a second to fix that. Sorry, guys. I didn't even think about it for a second, and then I was like, wait a second, I have no sound.
We're going to be seeing Zarkra start off at his Raptor camp, even with knowledge that there's a ward on it. Meanwhile, Sir Celery will be getting at his blue, which does mean he's going to be slightly behind in terms of the race to level 3. Depends on how quickly this Rengar is actually able to clean out that Raptor camp, but with the help of Fieri, it looks like he was doing just fine. And we switch focus to the bottom lane, where Raccoon's getting some good damage down onto the Karma.
And we have sound. I fixed it.
Oh, good.
I must have muted a leak at some point for something. Now we are ready to go. Raccoon taking a bit of poke damage.
But Kyle and Raccoon have managed to get an early push on in this lane, which means they should hit level 2 first. And that could potentially be advantageous for them. Honestly, Twitch doesn't gain too much from level 2, the Expunge being probably what he's going to level up here, provided he hasn't gone for the Venomous Cask already. As it does mean they'll be able to play up a little bit on the lane and deny maybe 1 or 2 CS, which every little bit counts.
Raccoon late on the shield, unfortunately, only absorbs the second half.
Yeah. Still, though, eating that Karma Q there actually caused a minion to die and denied a CS to Boozle, so there's pros and cons, I guess, to everything. Kyle continuing to play up.
Advantage. I'm actually really curious to see what Pykick does in this top lane, because I just don't see a Renekton being able to bully the Shen out of the lane very easily. Getting some good pressure on early.
Out of lane is certainly a possibility as Pyke gets taunted under the turret. There's the flash forward from Sir Celery, and this is how the top lane is going to play out, it seems. First blood to the Croc, and we're going to see a repel from Sir Celery to easily make it out of turret aggro.
Very nicely played. A little sloppy at first, but they made a nice recovery, though. They did have to use Pyke Kick once the flash to make it work.
As Kyle and Boozle are going at it down here. Kyle going to get the upper hand, though, as a few more stacks of his deadly poison led to a particularly dangerous expunge. And we've got a interesting lane on our hands up top side now. Going for some really early investment, Pie Cake Lord is going to opt into another Doran's Blade and then a long sword. So it's going to be real tough for Fieri to hold his own now.
Absolutely. Getting the early first blood is going to be really significant for applying additional pressure to a Shen.
As well as that, the lane was in a position where he doesn't have to teleport back in, but we've got action on the bottom side, the Ignite onto Ankh. The damage is there, and it is real early on from Kyle. Heal now on the way out. Zakara coming from the side as he leaps out of the bush back onto Raccoon. There's the repel, or pardon me, the Cocoon. It's hard to say Raccoon and Cocoon, one after another. And Elise sinks her fangs into yet another kill for Supernova.
We do see Divine does get one back, but that is going to be another fight going in favor of Supernova.
And it was actually a good, early position for Divine to be in there. At the start of that fight, they had Zarkra coming around from the side. They were the ones who were sort of prepared for that. I mean, obviously they were face-checking into a tri-bush that they didn't have warded, but they were doing that because they thought they had a 3v2, because they thought they had a pincer, and they could afford to take a little bit of a disfavorable trade at the start, not realizing that Sir Celery was waiting in the jungle.
Absolutely. And because of that war, they do know that Sir Celery is at the Raptor camp right now.
This Pie Cake continues to dominate up here, now with a almost 15 CS lead or so.
I like how they made me eat my words as I was mentioning them.
Well, I mean, Renekton does really, really well into pretty much any tanky melee matchup. Maokai, Shen, doesn't really matter. He does super strong. This is a pre-6 Ahri. If Sir Celery can line up a Cocoon, this is really good for them. But Zarkra was waiting around the corner. The early Rengar burst is pretty huge in the flash to get the true damage. Well done by Shang-Di.
Very nicely played. They had no idea that Zakara was there, and they just kind of melted Celery, because Celery is opting for the more damage-oriented start here with the Runic Echoes, I believe.
Oh, Kyle, I don't know about this. This is a straight 1v2 that Kyle just picks out of nowhere. I'm very confused as to why he went for that.
Very curious indeed. A little bit of a misplay. Maybe he overestimated how much damage he could do? Or didn't realize that Boozle was in the bush.
I mean, he knew Boozle was in the bush, though, because Boozle just had stepped out of it for a moment there, right before that. Had been farming the wave, had just stepped out, maybe he
told him to take out the trash or something, I don't know.
An interruption in the base there from the Ahri, and I don't know. The result of that, though, is that a kill does go over to the Lucian, who's going to actually now even up on items with this Twitch, pick up a Bilgewater Cutlass of his own. Both of these AD carries rushing for the early Blade of the Ruin King, it seems. Very popular start nowadays.
And that kill's actually going to even out the gold. They're only about 100, 200 behind on Divine.
So it actually did kind of throw away something of a lead that Supernova had in the bottom lane. And Supernova, they've got to get these laning leads. They're the team with the Renekton. They've got good scaling otherwise, though, so I think they should be just fine. The Renekton, I don't think, is enough of a weak spot. On second thought here, I don't think the Renekton is enough of a weak spot to really be that worried about. But Raccoon now getting caught out in the river. There's the Bilgewater Cutlass slowing him up, and Boozle gets another kill. Supernova's dual lane is just playing way too far up. I think they're getting kind of cocky, honestly.
Ever so slight mistakes that they're paying for super hard.
Shang-Di Spirit rushing around is going to claim a kill into Jesus Chris, as now Zarkra is up on the top side to try and alleviate some of the pressure onto the Shen. Shang-Di gets a speed buff off of his Orb of Deception and zooms his way right out of a potential gank from the Elise. He's even going to pick up a nice little snack in the river. Yeah. Maybe head top. Definitely head top. This
My
is...
Kickler is also being really aggressive here, going towards the enemy red buff.
Yeah, Shang-Di will get spotted out on his way through the try there, though. So they know that the Ahri's coming in from behind, but it may be too late. As Sir Celery is going to get caught out trying to steal away a red. Supernova are underestimating their opponents again and again.
They had a really super strong start, and they've just kind of really thrown it here.
Their reaction to being off kilter and giving up a kill here or there has been to, put the foot to the gas even more. And they lose a kill in the mid lane, they still decide to invade. They lose a kill on the bottom side, Raccoon still goes for deep vision. Like, they're playing as if they're ahead when they've made some mistakes and they weren't anymore.
Indeed. They have to keep in mind, Divine here, they defeated Bend Over. And that's a sign that you got to take these guys at least a little seriously.
As Fier is now a little more confident in the matchup here, but perhaps shouldn't be. A flash under the turret. Looks like Pie Cake Lord won't finish off the kill, but that overconfidence does come at the cost of a summoner's
flash. He could go for it.
But yeah, and that's likely why Fier is backing up.
Yeah, Fier realized that he could easily die here and decides that, better back over here.
A full Rage Renekton with Flash still up when you don't have yours is a recipe for disaster. Divine's bottom lane is potentially going for another duel here. Flash away from Kyle. Good. I like to see that Kyle is respecting this a little bit more, but it may not be enough anymore. The heal, the shield's not nearly enough. Zarkra claims the kill. Raccoon gonna get ignited, has to flash away himself, but they've got enough time for Elise to come down. Victor is roaming from the mid lane as well. It's a shutdown onto the Lucian. Maybe they can keep this ball rolling. Zarkra actually whips on the bolas there. Nice repel from Sir Celery. Raccoon still here for the ulti, and there's Victor from the mid lane just for a cursory laser as the Karma dies.
Well, they managed to make a recovery, Celery making it down just in time. It's very unfortunate for Kyle that Raccoon was not level 6 right when he died.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have had the Wild Growth that would have helped significantly.
But still, the Wild Growth was there in time to get the kill over to Sir Celery at the very least. Zarkra going to secure his blue buff. Since he's weak on the bottom side, he wants to make sure that that's gone.
Absolutely.
And again, overconfidence is a killer here. To Divine instead of Supernova.
I think this might be the first time I've ever seen a Gunblade being built on a Ahri.
It is a little... Gunblade has been seeing a lot more play recently. Katarina is the most common champion you'll see it on because she does make use of both the AD and AP scaling, but Gunblade has been seen on champions as strange and disparate as LeBlanc before. A lot of assassins are picking it up because that extra activatable slow is so strong. But it is still a curious piece of itemization.
Imagine Shangdi can make it work.
The Omnivamp combined with Ahri passive as well does mean Shangdi's going to have a lot of sustain, and there's the slow into Raccoon. Does secure him a kill.
Again, Raccoon getting caught out, trying to get some vision down.
Sir Celery, though, looking for a repeat of that first blood from earlier. The air a little bit tankier this time, though, and does have the Shadow Dash. Lands the taunt to the Pie Cake and Sir Celery, but he's still going to go down as his turret falls.
A valiant effort to hold that lane, but Pie Cake Lord easily able to tank that turret with Dominus up.
And that's first brick to Supernova. A nice little chunk of change for them. Looks like Divine are trying to answer the turret take on the bottom side, but they're getting flanked on at the moment by a Victor. They'll see him just now. And they're not backing... Okay, they're backing away.
AQ not quite reaching, so it's not going to slow Jesus Chris, but Chris is nowhere in range of that anyways. There's not much he can do other than scare them off.
Well, it's a turret lead for Supernova. Good play on the top side. Eventually, this bottom lane turret is going to be answered, and maybe sooner than later, as Kyle is getting a face full of bullets here. However, Raccoon's able to flank around from the side. There's the two-man knock-up. Shields onto Boozle. He's going to relentlessly pursue his way out of there. And answering teleport from Pie Cake Lord. Nobody goes down, but more resources are burned on the side of Divine.
Boozle is on the very low end of the health spectrum, so he's probably going to want to back up here. He could very easily go down to a flash from Pie Cake Lord.
Fier is playing highly aggressively, misses the Shadow Dash in the middle of the enemy team. He's still trying to buy enough time, though, for the Rengar to join the fight. But I don't think they've got a lot of CC to follow this up. Like, this is a very aggressive play that they haven't got a lot to throw at. They push Supernova back. Maybe they're aiming to take the turret.
It is 5-man for Team Divine down here, so there's definitely something they could do.
I mean, it's 5 on both sides now.
This True Celery is fairly close.
Boozle, though, is basing at the moment, so it would be a 4v5 if another fight breaks out. Oh, no. Doesn't quite complete the base animation.
Both teams are just skirmishing. No deaths so far.
Yeah, and no objectives either. That was a real whiff.
Interesting posturing. Lots of posturing.
Yeah, posturing. That's a good word.
Angry fist shaking, and then they all backed off.
Yeah, like two drunk guys in a bar, neither one of which really wants to fight, but both of which are very loud about wanting to fight.
Absolutely. Like, I dare you to come over here and fight me.
Neither one actually wants the other one to get up, though. Though, I mean, they did more than just shout. They burned a lot of resources, but Shang-Di didn't have to burn his ulti, and Jesus Christ is feeling the pain of that. Flash and cleanse down.
Cleanse likely saving his life, but that does mean he's not going to have it for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it serves its purpose, but it is rough to now be in a much more vulnerable state, especially considering that Ahri ulti is not a very long cooldown. Especially also considering that Shang-Di is level 11, a full 2 levels over Jesus Christ. This Ahri is snowballing like mad.
Absolutely, he is super strong right now. Already has that finished gunfight is at 4-0, able to pick up quite a few kills just roaming.
It's unfortunate that the first Drake to spawn this game was Cloud Drake. I feel like we may have seen some more action, even than we've already seen, if this were a dragon worth fighting for. But sadly, unlike the Mulan song, this is not a dragon worth fighting for. And as we have Zarkra up on the top side, Pie-Cake Lord realizing he's outmatched is going to back away. Dominus still swirling.
I'd be nervous on Zarkra. He does have a little bit of armor.
As Culling gets burned for some good harass onto Raccoon and Kyle. Ankh going to be chased away, though. Whoa, that's an interesting use of the Twitch ulti. Does not get much out of it.
Only landed 2 shots.
Yeah, 2 or 3 onto Ankh alone as well. Boozle dashing in. There's the wild growth. Boozle now healing on his way out. They realize Sir Celery is coming down the river, but it is being matched by a Victor. Or pardon me, no, Victor Supernova. It is being matched potentially by a Rengar is what I meant.
But once again, we see lots of posturing, no deaths, and everybody is going to be backing off a little bit.
Hey, that's not top lane.
Silly
some
top
top
laners.
laners,
What are you
though.
doing in mid lane? Ooh,
Zarkra
decent chunks of damage
flashing
there, though.
away from Pie-Cake Lord. Does not want to get stunned up, but doesn't look like he'll get what he wants. Pie-Cake Lord easily diving into the turret for that one. Fier now flashing backwards, but he's going to go down as well. And Supernova prey on 2 easy picks. Pie-Cake Lord will fall for that, as Shang-Di continues to boast that 5-0 scoreline. 6-0 now. It's a shutdown for the Ahri.
That is even more cold for Shang-Di, who is now building a Sheen, so I think we'll probably be seeing a Lich Bane.
Yeah, Shang-Di is disgustingly strong at this point. A very curious item build, though.
At this point,
Gunblade has seen a lot more play. Yeah, I mean, he is so far ahead that really any even remotely valid itemization will be really strong. Flash away from Ankh.
They are giving some nice, strong respect to Kyle, even though they have been fairly dominant in this lane.
You know, the interesting thing that Gunblade and Sheen into presumably Lich Bane gives you is actually quite a lot more upfront burst, because you get the damage off the activation from Gunblade, of course, all of Ahri's kit, and then also a Sheen proc, or Lich Bane proc, which is upgraded. So, really, really high threat to one particular person. Having less AP does mean that like Ahri's consistent damage output isn't going to be as high, but that doesn't seem as necessary against a team comp that's lacking a true tank.
Absolutely. Boozle is going to be able to get out just in
Ooh.
time.
Yeah, 4-man attempted gank from Supernova. That's going to give some breathing room to Fiere. He's going to farm it out on the top side. Desperately needs that. About 60 CS back at this point, which is frankly absurd.
Uh-oh.
Also going to give them the room to potentially flank. Charm whiffs. Zarkra actually in something of a rough spot. He's able to reposition. There's the leap in on the Pie-Cake Lord, but that was not the right target. Good night to Divine. Supernova easily turned this one back, and Kyle gets himself a double. They're going to hunt down another. It's 2 to the spider and 2 to the rat. Maybe 1 to the alligator, too. Yep.
They dived in there and just ate so much AoE damage.
Yeah, I mean, Divine actually had a good position for that fight. They just needed to be more cautious about it. They thought they had a pick on a Pie-Cake Lord, but Pie-Cake Lord is not a pickable target at the moment. That man is very tanky. He's the highest level player in the game, not counting Ahri right now. He's got a lot of base health to work with. He is
this huge threat.
He is in Renekton's prime right now. But on top of that, they also ignored the Twitch, and that was really the more dangerous part of that. In going for the Renekton, they ignored the Twitch, who got a ton of damage out there. Has the Blade of the Ruin King finished, had the ulti.
Absolutely. Simple Kyle popped his ultimate, and they were able to just AoE everybody down it. nobody lasted more than a couple seconds in that fight.
And Supernova have cracked this game, I wouldn't say wide open, but they've certainly put a dent in it. Getting themselves that lamented Cloud Drake. I'm curious as to what the next one's going to be. Another Cloud Drake. Oh,
Absolutely. Kyle may have been struggling in the bottom lane, but as we just noticed, he can still output quite a bit of damage. And we can see that Jesus Chris isn't exactly dominating his lane, but he's also not dying to Shandy despite Shandy's scoreline, which is significant.
I mean, it's also about breakpoints, as I said. As I mentioned, Kyle has completed the Blade of the Rune King, but, you know, it's not going to save him when Shang-Chi has a snare that easy to follow up on.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned in the draft, like, the team fighting is going to be tilted slightly in favor of Supernova. They've got a really good core for team fighting with Lulu, Twitch, and Victor, whereas, particularly given that there's a 7-1 Ahri in this game, Divine need to find some picks. They've got the Rengar and the Ahri. They need to land charms and, I guess, jump on people who are isolated with Renekton. I mean, Rengar, you don't really need to land anything specific there, aside from maybe empowered bolas.
And we see Cake Lord, I almost keep not pronouncing his name, continue to put pressure on the top side, and they're actually going to go for Rift Herald. Yeah.
No reason not to keep the Renekton in his prime a little bit longer. That's basically what the Rift Herald buff is going to do.
Absolutely, and on that note, actually, the Rift Herald buffs they're doing are pretty interesting. But back to League.
That will be live in, what, a few weeks from now? Maybe a month? I forget.
Probably
whenever the tank update comes out.
Yeah, about the same
I don't know
time.
if they've actually announced that. An invasion attempt here from Divine, and there's the picks that I was talking about, or one of them at the very least.
Very interested in their pest control.
Yeah, and again, it's onto Kyle. Like, this is the perfect target to just be murdering willy-nilly over and over again. The rough thing for them is that there's not really anything to take off that. They can't go for drag. They don't have any easy turrets to push, because Supernova did just shove out mid lane here. But it doesn't hurt to get the gold. This is such a strange position. There's this Gen ulti. They're picking a fight here. Teleport in from Renekton, but Divine have already lost their turret. Supernova is going to come out on top in just a straight team fight, even without the Twitch. As now Cake Lord is dashing to the back lines. There goes the Shen. That was not a good moment to jump in, Rengar. Good night, Zarkra. Oh no, he flashes. He's in the bush. Cake might be able to chase him down. One way or another, though, it didn't get too much accomplished. Flash away from Ankh. There's a shutdown onto the Elise, and that's a dead kitty. Bilgewater got the kill. Oh boy.
Cake Lord managed to force Shang-Chi's flash. And it looks like... Yeah, Supernova does come out ahead.
Oh yeah, they got the turret.
They got the turret, and they managed to pick up 3 kills.
Even if the kills had been even if the fight had been much messier, they got that turret off the back of it. And they got that turret while they were 4v5 on the map, after their AD carry had just died. Like, Supernova are just much more aware of where they have to be and when they have to be there than Divine seem to be. Absolutely. Divine are very good at finding picks, though.
Without a doubt, they're keeping very good vision up, and they managed to get several picks just in the bottom side red zone.
But they then have to do something with those picks. It seems to be their issue. The last 2 times that they've gotten solo kills onto the enemy AD carry, they've accomplished nothing of real impact with it. And like, if you take a look at like professional level play in almost any region at this point, if a solo kill happens on the enemy AD carry and you're in the mid game, a turret goes down, a dragon goes down, something happens. That's sort of where the disconnect is here. Ankh can't face checking.
Looks like he'll be able to get away without too much issues. Only Raccoon and Celery was not quite in position to get a cocoon off.
Baron is now a real threat, with Kyle having scaled up to 2 items here. Good charm onto Celery. Half the health off the jungler makes Baron less of a threat.
Significant. So Celery has not quite finished an Abyssal or Zanyas yet. Speaking of Celery.
Yeah, really aggressive for that vision. And this is where Supernova could throw this game, in overextending for very, very small things. Overestimating themselves. And Kyle is again the one who gets the short end of that stick.
He just always in slightly the wrong position, or sometimes in the completely wrong position. But right there wasn't too bad, but it just, you can't be there with an Ahri.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, Shang-Di has built, like, specifically to kill one dude, as I mentioned earlier. He's got the Lichbane and Gunblade completed now. He's just super upfront burst on this Ahri build, and it's really cool. I actually like it quite a lot.
Definitely unique, and I do like unique a lot. I imagine we'll be seeing Kyle build a Quicksilver staff, probably.
A little bit of a dance there between some of the solo laners. Yeah, a Quicksilver Sash makes the most sense. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Quicksilver Sash and a Mikhail's build this game. At least one or the other for Supernova.
Poor Kyle's probably been like just so threatened as a rat.
But Supernova still have vision control over this Baron, and they're going to make use of that. It looks like, yeah, there's enough pings in this Baron. I imagine Divine knows that this is going down. It's down below half already, though. With a ward over the wall, Shang-Di might be able to steal this. Nope. Gets secured by Victor, actually.
Well, that is going to be a nice, easy Baron for Supernova. There wasn't much in the way of contest.
It was just Zarkra being on the wrong end of a base rotation. He was still clearing out his bottom side jungle. He still hadn't based since that last fight, so he was at less than half health.
We're seeing Pykickler actually building very aggressively with his itemization. We're seeing some additional lethality being built, so I'm actually kind of curious to see what he builds it into. Maybe an Edge of Night?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes the most sense for him. There's a lot of options. Renekton going high damage is not super unusual, though, especially if he wants to stay relevant later in the game. It means he's, instead of going... Whoa, there's a stun on the Boozle. Does back off a bit. We get a heal from the Redemption. But Supernova now aiming to take control of the bottom side. They want to shove out some of these last remaining outer turrets. Pykickler can get a catch onto Shang-Di. That would be super valuable for Supernova, but even just delaying him getting to the fight is a big deal. Shang-Di is so much of Divine's power right now.
Yeah, we'll likely see a rotation here. They're just going to rotate straight to the bottom side. We see that Pykickler is hello.
Whoa, celery hurts. Shang-Di not respecting that Elise nearly enough.
What Shang-Di? I just see a corpse.
God dang. I mean, that is a full damage Elise right there. Not counting the Ninja Tabby. It's just full on burst and put on full display there. Supernova are going to break into this game now.
Absolutely.
I mean, they already did.
They're in a very strong position. Actually taking at that bottom hitter is going to go significant for the next Baron.
If we even get to the next Baron.
There's
a cleanse from Jesus Christ. Pykickler is on a killing spree. And they just built raw damage. They are spiking hard in the mid game here.
Indeed.
And without that Ahri, there's no good answer for the side of Divine. They don't have any way to fight this. If Supernova just groups and moves together as a unit.
There's certainly significantly more coordination on the side of Supernova. We're seeing Divine being a little more wishy-washy with their decision making.
To some degree, yeah. I mean, they've also got a composition that doesn't really lend itself to team fighting nearly as well, so not playing to that just makes sense, but the problem is they're being forced into it at the moment. The Baron is really helping with that, because Supernova can just walk down a lane, and they can't be ignored for any length of time at all. And now that's even more true with inhibitors being down.
Absolutely. And see, Pykickler actually has finished a Ghost Blade and is continuing to building more damage, so he's opting to not even bother with a tanky Renekton.
Yeah, no real need to if the game's going to end in the next 5 or 6 minutes, which it seems like it will.
That is increasingly becoming more and more likely as the game goes along here.
Supernova now have just one last lane to pummel down, and they've still got Baron buff to help them do it. This last remaining outer turret will crumble easily. They're shoving their way onto an inhibitor now.
That's just, the two inhibitors being down right at this very moment puts Divine in such a really rough spot.
Yeah, and I feel particularly bad for Shang-Di, who's just been pushed out of his element now. Like, he is really, really fed and strong still on this Ahri, and if the game were a little more even, if Shang-Di could have more places to maneuver and hide, then yeah, he could make use of this hugely bursty Ahri build to get some picks and maybe pull his team back into the game, but Supernova just denied that. But it's a two-man stunned. Doesn't matter. Fier gets melted. Goodbye to the Ari. And yeah, Supernova, they just cannot be team fought. Kyle? Okay. Kyle's okay.
They almost took down. Sorry, my throat. They almost took down Pie Kick Lord there, but Dominus kept him alive, and they managed to blow up all the damage before he could die.
Yeah, would it even matter though? Like, Pie Cake Lord is not central to Supernova's team fight anymore.
Not
Pie
really.
Cake Lord, one way or another, Pie Cake Lord is going to die to the base laser. But, they trade it for the Nexus, and I feel like that's a pretty good trade.
I don't know. That's pretty risky, winning the game versus losing a life.
Well, we'll be heading into the finals very shortly. I believe the other semifinal match is already underway. They'll correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Effect.
They should be pretty close to done. Just give me a moment to look at the bracket.
All right, and we'll be back with you once we're able to, guys. We'll be right back.
Very short. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere, folks.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe, trying to protect your soul.
And we're back for the finals. It's going to be between Supernova and I believe it's Kinesis Esports. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think it's Kinesis, but
Kinesis, you're right.
we will remain divided on that point. Or not. I guess you can just concede that I'm right. That works too. I wanted some conflict on the desk.
No, this is not something that's worth conflicting over. Not like, say, Control's name, which I argued up to Central for a long time.
No, but we need conflict. We need strife between the two of us, and we can build personality and engage the viewership. Or we can just talk about League of Legends. How about that? How about we do that?
Could talk about League of Legends. That we're actually going to see the new Rakan right off the bat.
Yeah, he's a fun champ. Grand Entrance is super strong. If you've got a team that can work around it and you can land a multi-man knockup, it's like a sort of neutered Malphite ulti, kind of. As well as that, the Quickening is one of the most powerful support ultis they've released in a long time. It can cause havoc and disarray in a team fight. It's great.
And it looks like we are going to see Kinesis securing a Lulu and a Lucian for themselves.
Yep. Now it's just a matter of seeing what AD carry gets picked alongside Rakan. Lore-wise, Xayah makes the most sense, but actually I don't think his best bet is with Xayah. He works really well with AD carries that are really, really good at hard engaging very quickly when he manages to land his knockup in lane. But Xayah, I mean, is still strong. You get all the extra little bonuses of playing alongside her. So you get the basing bonus, which can actually be relatively impactful. You get the extra attack speed when Xayah activates... God dang it. Razor Quill. I forget the name of her ability, but the one that gives her an attack speed buff also will give Rakan an attack speed buff. And you also get a longer range dash on your E when you're dashing specifically to Xayah. So there's a lot of little sort of minor buffs that do add up for these two being together in lane.
We'll have to see how well they can play. It is a fairly new set of characters, but from what I've seen, they're pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think Rakan is the more powerful of the two, but that may be the in me being all biased about it. Deadly Plumage, by the way, is the name of the ability that I couldn't remember earlier. If Rakan is nearby when she uses Deadly Plumage, he also gets to conjure a second lesser bolt from his auto attacks. So a little bit of an extra buff for being around one another in a few different ways. So it's not too surprising to see them picked along one another. I personally really like Rakan. I feel like Xayah is strong, but not incredible. To be fair, though, we've had access to the two of them for, 3 days now? So I imagine things are going to shift around these champions quite a bit.
Absolutely. And we have that is going to be
Fizz
a
top.
top line Fizz.
Yeah. Remains to be seen whether or not it's going to be a bruiser Fizz top or a full-on damage version, but it does mean that Piecake Lord can be very aggressive with his summoner spell choice. You're already seeing that here. Fizz doesn't really need flash because Playful Trickster is so very powerful for mobility in the first place, so you're able to go Ignite and Teleport.
And that is going to be, it looks like our lineups are all set. We actually saw Nub lock in the Orianna before the last picks. They just knew they were going to play Orianna. And we're seeing Sir Chivalry and Jesus Christ make a return to the exact same characters they played last time around.
Yep.
Very curious to see how this game goes. So on that note, we're going to be entering our 3-minute delay very quickly, and we'll be back as soon as we're on the Rift. So do not go anywhere, folks. And we're on to the Rift and ready to go for some League of Legends. And it's going to be between Supernova and Kinesis Esports. I keep saying Kinesis for me. That's wrong. Stop.
You got there in the end, though, and that's what counts. We'll see which of these teams makes it in there in the end. This is the finals for tonight's broadcast. It is going to be a best of one. Our Saturday broadcasts are always best of ones for the finals. However, I believe tomorrow we're going to be having the first Reverie Cup, which is what we've been building up to all month. And the finals for that is going to be a best of 3 or 5, one or the other.
I'm not quite sure because this is a new setup where it was our first month of doing the Rift Cup rather than what we were doing in the past with our Saturday Opens.
We are highly organized here at Reverie Esports. No, we are. We've got some great organizers. Willie F., Handsome Zach, Serene Squirt, all these guys. They do all the work in the background. We're just pretty voices here in front of some flashy colors. That's really all it comes down to Shoutcast. It's fun nonetheless, though.
Just to clarify, the Rift Cup is actually going to be next Sunday because this is a...
Next Sunday?
Yes. This is one of the rare months where there's 5 Saturdays in a month.
Oh, yes, you're right. Completely thrown me off. It's been that way for literally 2017 years. Still throws me off. Oh, get that last auto. Oh, they couldn't do it.
So close. No free gold for them.
No. Well, that's Kinesis out. Thank you guys for watching. Supernova take home this week's tournament. We'll see how they do next week. Kinesis unable to bring down that crucial first ward.
We won't see Bobby making any big plays since he couldn't take down the ward.
Well, actually, I'm really interested to watch this bottom lane, though, as the camera is focusing down here, because I've played a little bit of Xayah and Rakan, actually just Rakan. Don't really play very much AD carry myself, and they feel really smooth. One of my favorite things about these champions is that their kits are so well built, sort of within themselves. Xayah, in particular, feels highly synergistic and very, very combo-based. If you're able to actually land feathers well and make use of her kit well, you get rewarded so much better than someone who doesn't. Which isn't always the case with champions. You know, somebody like Malphite, for instance, doesn't really have to think about the interactions between different parts of his kit as much.
Hits buttons and then uses Arcane.
Yeah, I mean, that's not to say that the game shouldn't have Malphites. Simple champions need to exist so that more complex champions can be shut down and held in place and such things, like Malphite being played into Kindred and such, back when Kindred was really popular. Or, pardon me, not Kindred. The other one whose name I always forget, who never sees any play anymore.
I can't remember. Either way, though, that is going to be Celery popping his flash, but misses the cocoon on enough.
Callista.
Callista, you're right.
The jumpy one. Yes. Basically not even part of the game anymore.
Good. That's my bias.
Good? You don't like Callista?
I hate Callista.
I mean, there are certain champions I don't like either, but I don't want to see them just completely excised from the game like Callista has been for so very long. I mean, she saw a brief resurgence for a week or two, but...
It's true. It's just my inner melee speaking.
But yes, in basic theory, things like Malphite exist that, like Callista, don't become too strong. Or maybe not that exact matchup at the moment. Xayah sort of fits that bill as well. Kyle and Raccoon gonna keep this lane shoved up, though. Meanwhile, we didn't talk too much about Piecake's Lord. Interesting choice.
I'm actually kind of really interested in what Piecake's Lord is going to do. If he's going to go for the tankier Fizz build, or if he's just going to go straight full AP.
I imagine closer to a Bruiser build. I mean, I'm a little hesitant to say it, since Piecake's Lord is such a sort of carry player. He doesn't really like to play raw tanks, but, you know, even built tanky, Fizz isn't really a full tank. He's kind of always got that bruisery side to him, even if you go that route.
He's a
but the reason
bruiser with high damage.
Yeah, the reason I say that is because they've already got plenty of damage in the rest of their comp. They could use someone who's got some amount of durability. It's actually a really similar comp to last time, with Fizz sort of taking the place of Renekton. Piecake's Lord definitely avoiding all those axes. Olav might have overstepped. Yeah, one more tower shot and he would have gone down.
Oh, we completely missed the Olaf playing Olaf joke again. Oh my god.
I didn't miss it. I just didn't think it was very good.
I thought it was good.
You see, therein we differ, my friend. Therein we differ.
Sometimes these simple puns are the best.
Sometimes, but maybe not this time. Maybe not.
Either way, though, that is gonna Pike Kick Lord is back, but he's gonna be able to walk back to lane without using his teleport.
Yeah, and we're still not entirely sure his build direction just yet. Second Dorns and a Ruby Crystal just for some laning power. I haven't talked too much about the mid lane just yet, which is going to be a very stock standard matchup, but that's probably why we haven't talked about it very much. Victor versus Orianna. I've seen that a few times over the years.
Certainly nothing too unusual, so, I mean, the Fizz top lane and the Zarya Rakan bot lane is just so much more interesting.
Yeah. Though it does deserve its due, and Jesus Chris has done a good job of keeping them shoved up for the most part. He's eked out a small CS lead for himself, and Victor as well just has a little bit better wave clear, with Deathray being very, very powerful in that regard, especially once you get the upgraded Hex core.
Absolutely. He didn't exactly shine last game, but he didn't do badly either. So,
yeah,
that is
well,
worth noting.
By comparison, Jesus Chris certainly seemed lackluster. The Ahri performance last game was pretty much the only thing holding Team Divine together for as long as they did hold together. But as you say, it wasn't so much a fault of bad laning on the side of the Victor as it was really, really good pick and really, really good vision on the side of Team Divine. Raccoon and Kyle potentially taking a fight here.
Lots of quills down, but he's not going to be snaring anyone just yet.
Yeah, good consistent healing as well from Raccoon. If you're able to continually land those Qs, you can get so much sustain in lane. It's one of the more powerful 2v2 like trading tools. It's very similar to Nami's Ebb and Flow in that it creates such a gap in health by not only damaging your opponent but also healing you and even your ally.
I need to read up and go on the because I'm trying to think of exactly everything they do. I've only played against them one time.
There's a lot of small interactions, and not only in terms of abilities as well. My god, the number of lines between these two champions. Riot must have spent like half a day in the recording studio.
I am glad that they are making the characters have a much wider personality with all the new lines.
I mean, I'm not unhappy with it. It's just frankly impressive. They've got voice lines for every different type of ping. They've got voice lines for when one character is walking away from the other. That is the tiniest Fizz ulti I've ever seen, but it looks like it'll be just enough. That's first blood to Pie Cake Lord. That was pretty cut and dry. He may be in some trouble now from Olaf, though he is able to Urgent Strike his way through his aggressor. There's the Playful Trickster. Olaf not wanting to stick around, but does turn back to take the fight. And this Pie Cake Lord wanders his way out of the lane.
Yeah, Olaf could have taken that, but he took a pretty significant chunk of burst during Ragnarok and decided to kind of got scared off a little bit. And it's going to be Pie Cake Lord taking a free kill.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the knowledge of where Olaf is up on the top does leave his blue buff open to an invade, as well as the entirety of that side of the jungle. He lost his Gromp and his Wolves.
Bobby going to use the culling to take down a whole wave and going to take time to get back.
And it looks like it might be a slightly more damage-oriented Fizz. No, it looks like he's going Triforce. Yeah, that makes sense. Still damage-oriented, but not AP. So it will be Bruiser in the end. Going the Triforce to take advantage of his first blood to get a bit of early damage and continue snowballing this lead, and then building the Bruiser should he need it later.
Absolutely. It's actually going to help counter out Benolia's choice of building some early magic resistance. And it'll give Fizz a little more balanced damage, though he'll still be leaning very heavily on the magic damage.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Bruiser Fizz's damage comes from his base values, and even if some of it does have a little bit of physical scaling here or there, Fizz does pretty much entirely magic damage. So the itemization is correct from Beniola. This might not be enough with a 20 CS deficit and a first blood loss. Once again, Pie Cake Lord doing really well in the early landing phase. I mean, this is pretty much a staple of Supernova at this point.
So we're going to go and secure himself a red buff, and we might see some posturing around the dragon.
Flash forward from Rangito is a very aggressive play to Raccoon, but Raccoon is highly mobile in Rakan. And Bobby Big Play is going to get charmed backwards there by the quickening. Exhaust now onto Xayah. Olaf trying to come through, but the Feather Storm is going to get dropped, and Olaf is gone. Jesus, Chris claims that one. Good shockwave landing on a 2, but it may be a little bit... Supernova already have control of this fight. Pie Cake Lord gets one back. Bobby Big Plays looking to make the big plays, but it looks like he'll just claim one kill and then be hunted down. Flash with the wall from Sir Celery. There's the stun. Red buff to make sure Sir Celery gets it.
And that is going to be Supernova taking 4 for 1. Only Pie Cake Lord going down. We saw a lot of stuff burned there. Ignites, flashes, teleports.
Particularly a highly aggressive engagement from Rangito. Not respecting the mobility of Rakan. I mean, you've got so much ability to get out of fights, especially if Xayah is nearby. You have to remember that Rakan can actually dash even further if he's dashing to Xayah instead of dashing to someone else on his team.
Absolutely, and it does open up a possibility for Dragon, but instead we're going to see Supernova just straight up and back after securing first brick.
I mean, add on top of the fact that Battle Dance has 2 separate uses. Like, Rakan is just so very, very difficult to actually get a pick on.
Very, very bouncy. Lots of bouncing around. And we saw no hesitation for him to go back in on that fight. And the fight turned into a cluster where Supernova came out on top. Seeing some vision being cleared out. Seeing still not much in the way of posturing on Dragon just yet, but none might be in trouble.
Yeah, Raccoon dashing into the grand entrance. Doesn't have anything left to follow that up with. As Kyle walks a bit too far up the lane here. There's the Good Alliance Kyle flashing away to help him out. Bobby Big Plays gets another kill.
And Bobby some much needed gold to catch up. And it's a very nice little combo they had setting up that slowed down Kyle.
Good 2-man taunt from Beniona, but it will not be enough to save his life. And I feel like the last few games that we've watched have just been Shen's getting bullied under turrets over and over again.
And a Fizzin and Elise are 2 that could dive turrets very easily together.
Especially given the lead now that Pie Cake Lord has. Disgustingly far ahead, 3-1 with a 40 CS lead. My god. Still though, a turret take would be great for Kinesis here. It'll help pull that Shen out of the hole that he's in. It will help catapult ahead, perhaps, this Lucian, who has started to get a decent amount of gold in his pockets.
Absolutely. And we're going to see Dragon going
Pie
down
Cake?
for Rift Herald. Pie Cake Lord!
He's okay.
And there it is. That is going to give Pie Cake Lord some stronger 1v1 power a little bit. And we'll probably see him buy the Trinity Force right here.
As you said, though, Dragon was secured in exchange for that. It is an Ocean Drake, which is super nice to have at this point in the game. Probably the best during laning phase. Will be particularly useful for Beniona, who needs that sustain to be able to survive in this lane. I actually really like the choice of early Ninja Tabby, because Fizz weaves a lot of autos, particularly actually empowered autos into his duels. So Beniona's still going to get good value out of that item, even if it isn't magic resistance.
Absolutely. The extra regeneration you get when you get hit a little bit is always very helpful.
Oh, there's Raccoon with the dash in, the grand entrance as well. Holding he's up for quite a while. Beniona arrives, but it looks like he might be too late to fight. Rangito now getting caught on too. And there's the dive under the turret, burns away to Pie Cake's Lord's damage. Raccoon may have overextended, he'll get a heal, but it's delayed for a moment. There's the dash in from Olaf, a flash to finish it off. Sir Celery, though, nice repel to dodge away from the Beniona ulti. Attempted Shadow Dash from Beniona. Supernova may yet take another turret down here.
See, Pie Cake Lord sitting off to the side. He is super low, but he does more than enough damage to take out Nub or Olaf here.
On Fizz, he's basically impossible to engage on, but that seemed overzealous. Celery's on a killing spree, though, and they're going to be able to hunt down Beniona as well. No,
thought he had it, but the Grand Dissonance came down right as he
has nowhere
landed.
to repel to. He's going to have to come back down in the middle of a bunch of very unfriendly people.
And that is going to be Supernova paying for their aggression, losing both their jungler and their top laner, only getting Olaf there.
Are they still going for this turret? Jesus, Chris, and Kyle, yeah, they're going to be able to take this down. Raccoon is back with full health.
They have a stronger health total right now, and Rakana is back, yeah.
Beniona basing, didn't realize he was set on top of a ward. Grand Entrance doesn't quite land, and neither does the Q.
Beniona able to Shadow Dash away with less than 100 health.
Still though, turret goes down, Supernova. Even if admittedly they are quite overzealous after a good fight, they still get a good fight. And they don't end up paying too dearly for their crazy dive. We see this quite often with Supernova, where they have really considered solid play for the most part, and then occasionally someone's just like, I can do it, send me in, coach, and they dive to the back lines while they have 200 health left, or they invade on the enemy after they've lost a mid lane, or something like that. They just make these, honestly, pretty blatant misplays because they feel like they're so far ahead that they can afford it. But they don't do it consistently. The last few games we've seen that once they make that misplay, they'll usually be like, oh crap, we actually can lose this. Okay, guys, buckle down. And we'll see whether or not that pattern holds.
Absolutely. It's always a very interesting realization because sometimes you can see it in the game. You know,
yeah, definitely. You can see it in gameplay.
We're making too many mistakes here.
They've still definitely got the lead here, though, and they are flexing that muscle right now, invading in for some vision control, staying as a group, and altogether playing very cleanly. I'm going to shove in onto a secondary turret on the top side.
Absolutely. Olaf is actually getting much tankier now. He's able to take quite a few more hits there.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter that they weren't able to jump in onto Olaf or get to pick in the jungle. They were really just after that turret. They will lose some of their vision control on the way out. That should be just fine.
Absolutely. The turret is worth a few wards, without a doubt. We're seeing Benionia is still on the bottom side, trying to get that wave pushing up. It's actually a pretty big wave.
Yeah, he will be matched by Pie Cake Lord, though. He's going to be able to get there just by walking in time and thus hold on to his teleport. He's actually pretty big for Supernova. And they'll even have Victor in the mid lane in time to clean this wave out. Victor wave clear is not something to be trifled with, but Olaf is looking to try and punish him for it. There's ghosts matched on both sides. Supernova's mid laner is kind of alone here. Raccoon going to get pulled back by the shockwave that was meant just for the Victor, but good night, Olaf. Just a little too difficult to get that pick. It was the right call, I feel like, but the fight may rage on yet. No, maybe not.
Pike gets kited out, and then he lets it start.
Yeah, Rangito now caught out without a team to help him. Easy kill for Pie Cake Lord. And I feel like Olaf did make the right call there, but just pushed it a little too hard. Pushing Jesus Christ off that turret was the right idea, but chasing him through the second turret, maybe not as much.
Absolutely. Once Jesus Christ got out of range, he probably shouldn't have continued to chase. And he just went harder after the shockwave went off and didn't realize he didn't have quite enough. He tried backing off way too late, or maybe he didn't commit hard enough to just taking it down, Jesus Christ, one way or the other.
Well, I mean, it was the smart play to make, because Kinesis had something of a tempo advantage at that moment, because Supernova had just all based except for Jesus Christ, and somebody had to go and answer the Shen, so they knew there wouldn't at least be 5 people there. But pushing the Victor away was a victory in and of itself. They could have taken some damage, maybe taken the turret. Well, unlikely they took it down all the way, but taken some damage on the turret and the Victor's ghost. Get like a really small advantage. Not even really an advantage, just really small sort of consolation prizes.
Stepping stones to an advantage.
Yeah, but higher level players are very unlikely to do that often, because usually they're the kind of players who want to push for the win as quickly as possible. They're the kind of players who want to just get everything they possibly can out of a situation and end up pushing the envelope a little too far sometimes.
And we saw that with Olaf. He went just a few steps too far and didn't back off as fast as he needed.
Dragon, though, started off by Supernova here and finished just as quickly. So yeah, that will match the Ocean Drakes, which is useful. Not the best dragon they could have gotten. I imagine they would have liked a Infernal or Mountain Drake, given that they're trying to take team fights and shove turrets at the moment. But Pie Cake Lord may find himself in a 2v1. Bobby Big Play's having to dodge away from the shark. Pie Cake Lord now getting melted. But Beniona getting melted equally quickly. There's the Blade of the Rune King. Pie Cake Lord trying to turn his back around, looking to take at least a 1-for-1. He won't find even that. Now, if Supernova are held off and they're shoving the bottom lane, then that's really, really solid for Kinesis. They managed to get a pick and not lose much for it, but the turret is under fire.
They do have Stand United, so I think they do at least.
Yeah, I feel like Kinesis should be trying to pick a fight here, even if Stand United is up, but they also have teleport. Like, they've got mobility for Beniona. Send him back top lane, have him clear out another lane, and then try and pick a fight as best you can. One of their main problems, though, is they don't have great initiation. They've got, like, Olaf ulti plus some speed buffs. That's about it. Honestly, I feel like maybe an Ashe might have been a little better than Lucian here, but bygones are bygones, and Rangido is a bygone.
He definitely went to get wards and melted. Sir Shovel once again building the high damage Elise build and just explodes anyone who doesn't have even a whole ton of magic resistance.
If it ain't broke, there's no reason to fix it. Supernova are now going to be taking another turret for themselves. Yeah, I feel like some form of really hard engage is kind of necessary for Kinesis' game plan here for the teamfight comp that they have. Because right now they're kind of relying on Supernova to pick the fight for them. And then they've got a great teamfight composition if there's a fight. But what we saw right there is Supernova just push and take a turret. Maybe get a pick if they happen to find one.
Absolutely. Right now, Olaf, he has the Ghost, but he doesn't have, say... Oh, what was the name of that item? Builds a Catalyst, Glory of something.
Righteous Glory?
Righteous Glory, that's it. It's been so long since I've seen one of those items that could help significantly with an engage, because it does have slow on it.
Potentially? Yeah, I suppose it could, but it would really gimp his tanky itemization that he's going for. Like, Olav is actually sitting on quite a bit of gold for his team right now, even if his scoreline is 1-3-1. He's got a lot of farm built up, and he's just generally one of the few members of his team who's actually matching up to the opposition. But Supernova have this Baron down below 1,000 health. Little Lance attempted steal over the wall. Wouldn't that have been nice, but no, Supernova could secure that easily.
Oh yeah, Supernova, once again, a nice early Baron. That's going to give them a huge advantage as they push these turrets.
They're up against a very different composition than they were in the semis. They're still playing it basically the same as last time around. This Pie-Cake Lord may have a pick on a Beniona here. Again, they can collapse on the Pie-Cake Lord. But even if they do, they leave themselves open elsewhere. This is their engage. They have thrown everything at this fight, and Supernova have lost their AD carry. Kyle goes down. Pie-Cake Lord falls. This is exactly what is needed on the side of Kinesis Esports. And it looks like they may be able to keep the fight going. Flash forward from Bobby Big Plays. There's the quickening. There's the grand entrance as well. Raccoon to get out of this with his life. It looks like he'll keep it. This is what I'm talking about. Like, if Kinesis had a really reliable engage, they could make fights like that happen so much more often.
And it looks like they're just going to go ahead and let Olaf tank this turret until the minions get there.
Maybe like Ghost, Ragnarok, and Olaf ulti are enough to make engagements work. I feel like Supernova should be able to avoid that. Right there, they just weren't expecting Olaf out of nowhere to come rushing at them. But really, in a situation where they have better vision, where things are cut and dried, it's going to be very difficult to make that happen twice. As often as Olaf can use his E, it's going to be really difficult to make Lightning Strike twice this game.
Absolutely. It's worth noting Supernova doesn't have much in the way of a front line. So if Olaf gets into them, they don't have a way to like CC him after Ragnarok wears off.
Like, that's why I would have loved to see an Ashe or a Sivir in the AD carry role here. Even though they're less often played nowadays, and Lucian is a power pick. Rakan was first picked. Like, you at least had an inkling that they were going to go for the Xayah alongside that. You didn't really need to steal Lucian away, and maybe you could have picked an AD carry a bit more suited to the composition.
Absolutely. Yeah, Supernova does still have the Baron buff here, so they could possibly take out a turret. They are splitting a bit from a middle and a bottom.
Yeah, it's interesting that Kyle is the one doing the split pushing. Pie-Cake Lord doesn't have his teleport up, but he's still just almost impossible to duel for anyone in the team. So I'm surprised he's not the one off in a sideline right now, but they may very well fix that once Kyle rejoins the team.
Let's see. Pie-Cake Lord's burst is a little lower because he did opt for... He's going for a tanky build. He has the Wit's End. He's an item I haven't seen in forever.
Yeah, I mean, the Wit's End actually provides for quite a bit of consistent DPS as well, but there goes the inhibitor turret. Nub is the one left onto. Olav is getting melted, and this is exactly the type of fight that Kinesis Esport don't want to see.
Did not get a favorable engage there. Olav was never able to go in, and he is forced to back up to the fountain.
This could very well be GG, actually. Supernova still have a Baron buff to shove with. Olav gets snared up. Bobby Big Plays is leapt onto and shut down. Raccoon's kind of stranded in the backlines here, though. He's got to get within leaping range of his team. Battle Dance not actually up at the moment, but he does get the benefit of a heal from Kyle. Supernova still trying to push for the win here. Olav gets tossed up. He's rather tanky, though, so he's going to be able to wander back to the fountain, heal up a little bit, but he can't mince time. He's got to make it back to this fight soon. The Nexus is under fire. Nub is revived. Shockwave gets burned. Nobody actually caught in it. Does burn some flashes, though. Pie Cake Lord going to try and escape, and looks like they've held off the shove for now. They managed to finish off the Fizz as well. But that hurts.
They managed to drive them off, but they lost a lot of defenses there. They could easily die to a back door here.
They came as close to losing the game as you can without actually seeing defeat. And it's going to be so very difficult to hold off against a Fizz. A Trinity Force Fizz, no less.
Absolutely. Trinity Force Wits End, he can just teleport to a minion and kill the base. Love to see what they decide to do if they go for something a bit safer like a dragon. Or if
See,
they
the
just
problem
shove it up
now-
the middle.
The biggest problem now is that going for any objective leaves them open to simply losing the game. But Kinesis can at least quickly take this Ocean Drake, or however much good that'll do them. Not very much.
I imagine they want every little advantage they can get right now.
But there are Supernova team members rushing into their side of the map at the moment, cleaning out vision, threatening to make that final deadly push. And they're going to rotate towards the top side. They've got quite a minion wave to work with up there.
Yeah, absolutely. See Pie Cake Lord making his way to the bot side. He has a Dead Man's Plate now, so he's going to give him a little extra damage and engage.
And this is exactly the right call from Supernova. They've got free pressure in the mid lane. They send a bunch of people top with that huge wave, and as you said, Pie Cake Lord bottom side, teleport up very soon, is going to split the focus of Kinesis and make for an almost unanswerable question. This is basically the only opportunity they have to pick a fight, and they've just thrown everything they have at it. Leaping in onto Jesus Chris. The teleport is just now coming up for Pie Cake Lord. We'll see if he rejoins this fight. Olav is melting, though. Kyle doing some damn good DPS, and there's the teleporting Fizz coming into the back lines. Kyle's ulti goes down, doesn't actually catch anyone, but Pie Cake Lord is here, and it looks like this is a fight that a Fizz could definitely clean up. The double kill to Nub, but Pie Cake Lord is still wreaking havoc. Bobby Big Plays is melting him, though. He turns back around. Sir Celery going at a mano-a-mano with the jungler. That was such an even fight. Yeah. Sir Celery now is actually caught out in a very bad spot. Flash forward from Bobby Big Plays, but he doesn't do anything with it. Okay.
Sir Celery didn't use his cocoon.
They've got to get back. They've got to stop the supers from taking the game.
Looks like they have enough minions to give them a buffer against those supers.
Should Fizz have stayed bottom? Should Pie Cake have stuck around and just shoved in onto an inhibitor turret?
Maybe. His teleport wasn't up right at the start of the fight, so he was a few seconds late. He managed to get a kill, but I think he could have gotten that bottom turret.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like one auto away, or one and two like Trinity Force autos away from being down.
It's real close. I can't tell because the camera can't go down. I want to see the super tell this. Camera.
It's very, very low. It's like two Trinity Force autos away from being dead, so Pie Cake Lord could definitely have taken that. And Baron wasn't up. Like, there was no huge objective to be lost if that fight goes over to Kinesis Esports, even more than it already did. So in retrospect, with the rose-tinted glasses on, yes, Fizz should have stayed bot, but he didn't really know how the team fight was going to work out, so teleporting in makes an equal amount of sense. There's the Fizz ulti on the Bobby Big Plays. It's a great... Nub gets chunked away. Jesus Chris has been untouched and is going to start wrecking this fight if he stays that way. Kyle now coming in as well, and this is a victory for Supernova as Kinesis was unable to do anything to the enemy carries.
Absolutely. And just unfortunate that Benoya, he got cocooned, but I'm not sure if he ran away from the fight or they just ignored him entirely after a Shadow Dash was down. But it looks like that's going to be the game.
And that is the final game as well, going over to Supernova, who take home some more qualifier points for themselves. We're definitely going to be seeing them a week from tomorrow when we have our Reverie Cup.
Absolutely. Very interesting game. They played a little recklessly here and there, but they managed to win a very quick game of League of Legends. And on that note, that is going to be congratulations to Supernova. They got 4 points towards our qualifier, and that does mean that Kinesis, I almost said Kinesis again, I had to think about it, is going to take home 3 points, and our third and fourth place teams are going to take 2 and 1 point respectively. I'm not quite sure where our brackets are sitting at now for next week.
Thanks to all you guys for watching and tuning in, as always. If you enjoyed what you were watching, be sure to tap that follow button, as we do go live every week on Saturday and once a month at the end of the month on Sundays for our Reverie Cup tournaments. We have a lot of returning teams, a lot of new faces every week. Things are always fresh here at Reverie.
Absolutely. So on that note, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsors of this tournament. We do have Battlefy, which is the website we use to basically create and run our brackets. There's Vibby Gaming. I'm sorry, not Vibby Gaming. Vibby, which is a website we use to create our highlight reels. You just go to the website, you plug in your video, and then you can just create a highlight reel without downloading any software, so it's very easy to use. There's a Law History app, which is a summoner lookup tool for Android and iPhone. And then last, but certainly most not least, is Deco, which is a website you can use to buy some very nice shirts. I actually own a couple. So on that note, we are going to be heading off. Thanks for coming out to watch, guys. I hope we can see you guys next week.